Okay.
So this is Fit as a Fiddle Plus. My name is Kathy Benner. I'm a passive income coach, and Rita Brewer is with us. I'm going to let her share what she does in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to just read what Fit as a Fiddle Plus actually means. And then I'm going to turn it over to Rita to introduce herself. And then we get to talk with Jackie Williams today. And I'm excited. I can't wait to hear more about Jackie. And Jackie, we're going to talk about all the stuff that you're doing, and we're also going to talk about your book. So I can't wait to get started. I met Jackie, a little bit of a segue here. I met Jackie online, and when I was looking for folks to interview for our Writers Guild, and because of her topic, I knew she would be great on this podcast. So I invited her to be our guest today. Well, fit as a fiddle, the definition means to be in fantastic health. Well, nowadays, fit means to be healthy. However, in the past, fit meant fitting, as in something that is well suited for a particular purpose. So we want you to be fit as a fiddle plus in the 4 domains of health: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So join us as we explore everything health and wellness. And so are you ready to go to the next level? We want you to be well suited for all your endeavors. And we are here every 4th Monday at 6 o'clock. So join us. So with that, I'm just going to share a little bit about me. I was a single mom and struggled financially. And of course, being fit as a fiddle is all things, even financial. And so I actually was able to kind of figure it out, if you will. And once I retired, I decided that my biggest why for retiring early was so that I could become more healthy. I was in the salon industry, and the doctors started talking about me having shoulder surgery and elbow surgery and wrist surgery. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I retired right before I needed all those surgeries instead of right after? So I made a decision. It was a tough one. I made a decision to retire so I could work on my health, and things worked out. I think when we do the right stuff for the right reasons, God will honor that. And so I decided that I needed to retire for all the right reasons. And it was a little scary for me, but it worked out way better than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy to be where I am in life right now. And so Mark and I are now traveling more, and we're spending more time together. And so it was the right choice for all the right reasons. And so I created what was called an online academy. And so once I do these podcasts, I actually put the replays over on my platform, the Kathy Benner International Academy. And so anyone listening to this as a podcast, if you want to listen to all of the other replays, they are at the Kathy Benner International Academy. But you can just go to kathybenner.com and click through, and you will find a link that'll take you right there. So kathybenner.com. So that's me. So I'm going to hand it over to Rita. And Rita, tell us a little bit about you, and what do you have that's coming up soon that folks can tap in and connect with you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome, Jacqueline. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. As Kathy said, I am Rita Brewer. I have been a physician associate for over 30 years now, practicing many specialties in medicine, surgery, weight loss, obesity medicine, integrative medicine. And after so many years of treating so many patients with the chronic illnesses like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, many types of cancers, and I realized many, many years later in my career that the majority of these conditions are preventable and reversible. It sparked a new passion for me to want to help people in a more preventative way. And help people actually reverse many of these conditions, which in most cases can be reversed and prevented from happening in the first place. So I moved away from my PA role, and I now started my own virtual health coaching practice, where I specialize in type 2 diabetes reversal and weight loss, which I absolutely love. I celebrating with people who get to reclaim their health in that way. And I have a webinar coming up, a free webinar, talking about my diabetes reversal formula, which talks about the program and why I take my clients through the steps that I do in order to make this happen, because it's not being taught in the conventional community, and it should be, but it's not. So that's why I'm venturing out into the online world to share my knowledge with people so they can reclaim their health. And I have a new one coming up on March 20th. This is 2023 at 7 p.m. And you can find all the information about more about me, what I do, get on my mailing list for information about the webinar, all on my website at ritabrewer.com. And that's enough for now.
I just made a note of that. I've got Post-it notes stuck all over my computer. I now have one that says March 20, Rita.
Great. And you'll be getting an email with more details from me, Kathy, as well.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Now, today we have Jackie Williams with us, Jacqueline Williams. She was born in Brooklyn. Little side note, I've been looking for property. I want a little flat in New York, and I've looked in Brooklyn and Yonkers, and I'm looking all around Manhattan. I've been looking all around, and for something that I can afford. I have a place in Florida, so we're half time in Ohio and half time in Florida. And in my world, a perfect world would be a third of the time in Ohio, a third of the time in Florida, and a third of the time in New York City. I love, 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 love New York City. So anyway, so when I saw that she was born in Brooklyn, and then she grew up in Amityville, Long Island. She attended Long Island University and George Washington University, and she's had a wonderful career, but now retired from her career, where she worked as a special educator and an advocate for children diagnosed with chronic internal illnesses at one of the nation's top pediatric hospitals. She has now turned her hand to writing. Her debut book, By His Grace, is a memoir of her survival of childhood trauma. It is designed to show readers that they are not alone in their fight and can act as a stimulus for conversations that will encourage others to open up about their experiences and help them heal as a result. So today she lives in South Hill, Virginia, with her sister's granddaughters, Desirae and is it Daryl?
It is Daryl, yes.
Right? Whom she has adopted. So how fun is that? She spends her free time power walking, drinking coffee, eating out, reading, going to the theater, and cinema. Oh gosh, Jackie, I want to live next to you, because that's all my favorite stuff too. She also gives back to her community, having designed and run a free youth empowerment program, Who's at Risk, for girls ages 10 to 20 who have experienced family trauma, bullying, and low self-esteem. In the future, she's keen to travel both within the United States and internationally. I just booked an international trip, by the way. And she wants to talk to other survivors and those who are undergoing the healing process. So you can contact or connect with her, and we will put her information in the chat before our interview is over tonight. So gosh, give us your backstory, girl. You grew up in Brooklyn. What was that like growing up in Brooklyn?
Well, first of all, Kathy, you and Rita are two perfect people for me. We are so aligned. I would love to have a little place in New York also. I'm still a New York girl. There's a saying, New York bred, New York born. I'll be a New Yorker even when I'm gone. And I've been in Virginia for over 20 some years, and I'm like homesick every day. I didn't grow up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Amityville, Long Island. We left Brooklyn when I was about 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but I lived in Brooklyn as an adult for many years, for about 10 or 15 years, and just loved the energy of Brooklyn and super loved the energy of Manhattan. I always worked in Manhattan, and, there's just no place like New York. But I have visited Ohio. I actually did a little real estate investing many years ago and visited Cleveland. Okay. And we went through some interesting neighborhoods where there was investment property. And then my friend, who is a native of Cleveland, took me to all of these like really interesting places that only people who live in Cleveland know, like Swenson's. And I mean, it was just the best. It was the best.
I get it.
I even have a t-shirt that says, I'd rather be in Ohio. So I love your state, and I've only been to Cleveland and to Akron, but we're coming back with her when she comes to visit her family. And And
So
so
you were by you were up by the lake, Cleveland. You were right on Lake Erie, and I actually am in kind of the middle of the state, right outside of Columbus. But I owned property up there in Sandusky by Cedar Point for several years. But I actually physically am half-time and then half-time in Florida at Sarasota area, but I'm half-time right outside the Columbus, Ohio area. So a couple hours away from where you were.
wow. And for many years I had Sister Locks, and my loctician, she lived in Columbus, but
Okay.
she spent half the year in Columbus and the other half in Washington, D.C. And
Okay.
then the winter started to get a little rough in Washington, D.C. And so I'm so proud of her. She decided to spend her summers in Ohio with family and her winters in Costa Rica. She's a girl after my own heart.
Yeah, girl, sounds good.
I don't see her very much anymore, but I feel so aligned with you ladies, because I believe that you have to be in good health mentally and emotionally. And sometimes those two are intertwined, but not quite the same. And you have to be healthy spiritually, financially, and physically. And as an adoptive parent, I kind of let my physical put back burner. I'm in good shape everywhere else, but I'm working on that physical side now. And I was an early retiree, like Kathy. I got kind of pushed out of my job, and decided that's it. I'm not working for anybody else. I've helped people make millions of dollars. It's time for me to do it for me. And I wanted to have more time with the girls. And so
Now, how old are they now?
they are 18 and 16 now.
Okay. Oh, and when you know what, we think that we almost have our job done, but that's when they need you the most.
Oh my gosh. Daryl was 11 months old, and Desirae had just turned 3 when they came to live with me. And they came to live with me in June. Desirae turned 3 in May. So they were babies. But
and
now
you were still working.
I was still working. I worked so hard all the time. And I worked at a pediatric rehabilitation hospital, very well respected hospital, lots of accolades and awards. And when I arrived, here were all of these children sitting in their wheelchairs and on these odd beds. And when I asked why these children are not in school, the head nurse looked at me like, oh boy, they got a live one. And so at our staff meeting, I had to educate the staff that, listen, these children can go to school. They may not have the academic experience that you and I had or our children have, but they can have a school experience. And so they all thought I was crazy until the buses pulled up.
So you made it happen.
And the head nurse, who was the main one, she said to me, Jackie, I thought you were the craziest thing that I'd ever met in my life. She said, girl, I am so proud of you. So I said,
love it.
Oh, they can go to school. We can't add life to their years. We don't get them out of, there's no adding years to their life. But if we don't get them out of this hospital, we're not adding life to their years. Let them go feel the sun on their face. Let them feel the bumpity bump of a school bus. Let them hear laughing. Children are kind if we teach them to be kind. And in that, taught my kids to respect children with severe disabilities. And they ask, can you touch? I say, yeah, you could touch. Yeah, say hi, touch, hold hand. They're kids, and they don't know how sick they are sometimes. They're just busy being kids. I had a kid who used to pop a wheelie in his wheelchair all the time, his little 5-year-old self, and terrify me. But my kids would squeal with laughter. They thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And so I am so in agreement with you ladies that I believe that every one of us can be the very best version of ourselves, but sometimes we need help.
Yeah.
We need a hand, a kind word. We need a guide. We need someone to give us a simple process that will begin the transformation. And I am a reluctant writer. I never really intended to be an author. I just was trying to be obedient. I met a young prophet and at my job, and I didn't know him and he didn't know me. And he turned to me and said to me, Miss Jackie, God wants you to write the book. And so I went to
And you're
really,
like, the book, okay.
I
What book?
cried because I had not talked about the book with anybody, because the book is, it's not a pretty story. By his grace, it's not a pretty story. It's no Cinderella story by any means. It is a horror story with a happy ending. I love to say that it's my sister and I. It's our journey to Jesus. We made it. And that's how I know other people can make it. You can make it out of it. You can fight your way to the top. You can survive. You can even thrive. I have a good life. I've had a remarkable life. I have all of these wonderful stories that I'm going to write another book. That I just told you guys about the kids when the buses pulled up.
Yeah, that is a great story. So
Yeah.
in this book, By His Grace, you said it's designed to actually show readers that they're not alone in their fight.
Yeah.
And that it can act as a stimulus for conversations to encourage others to open up about their experiences. Because again, so many times with childhood trauma that they kind of hide, folks hide from
People hide.
sharing that. And I get that. So what was it that prompted you? I mean, other than feeling that you needed to write this book, what made you actually say, I'm going to do it? Was there an aha moment for you that you just said, this is my sign, I've got to write it?
I believe that I heard God clearly. And then I get this new job, and this young man who I don't know turns to me and says, and Miss Jackie, God wants you to write the book.
So that was your aha, that, okay.
Ugly face cry. I couldn't even control myself because I hadn't talked to anybody. The book is crisscrossed with days and nights of, my sister and I almost being hunted by this madman because he wanted to rape us. He was obsessed with having sexual activity with children. And he lived in the house with us. He was violent. He was such a wicked man. And I would never talk about that with people. I'm like, does he know what he's saying? And I go home and I pray. And I said to a friend, I don't even know how to start. And so she told me to start to talk into a recorder. And so I started. And I wrote the book in 2006.
Okay.
And it sat for years. I didn't edit it. I couldn't look at it. It was too painful.
Yeah.
But the process was so cathartic for me. And in the process, I forgave the man who was just the most wicked predator. I forgave my mother. I forgave my father. I sat, my sister passed away, and we were going to write the book together. And so I dedicate the book to her. But I sat her granddaughters down and talked to them a little bit about what we went through. And I asked them, how do you feel about me writing a book like this? And they both said, I think you have to do it, Mom, because what about other kids?
So really the book is kind of twofold. Not only are you helping others, but it also helped you get that out of you.
Yes. I am so free now. It's like, I
heard a lot of authors say that it was very painful to write their story, but it was very healing to write their story at the same time.
Yeah.
But it takes years, Jackie, doesn't it? I mean, that's not a simple thing. Just like, I'm just going to write this book. Like you said, you maybe started and you put it down for some years, because that's deep. I mean, to go to that depth and bring all that back up again, that can take decades for people.
It was very hard. And I don't mean to say it was a quick fix. Before I wrote the book, I spent 8 years in therapy, strung out cocaine for 16 years of my life. I functioned as a drug addict. I went to work every day, but I was absolutely a drug addict. I've been clean and sober for 30 years. I've never been to a drug treatment facility. God's grace and his mercy, I couldn't name the book anything else but by his grace, because
Wow.
I know who I used to be. I
Mm.
functioned, was so very sad and unhappy, holding this secret about what happened to me and feeling as though it was my fault. And I talked to people all across the country, and that's the number one thing. So many people are still blaming themselves for something that happened when they were children. And children can't possibly control that kind of wicked, demented situation. And sometimes kids are too afraid to tell. I was too afraid to,
Yeah,
this was
of course.
a violent man. He beat my mother so bad, put her in the hospital so many times. He told me that if I told, he would kill her, and he would tell everybody that she left us. And then I thought, well, if mom's not here, there's no help. And she wasn't a lot of help, but at least,
Well, you always
sometimes
had hope. You always had hope because your
yeah,
mom was still in the picture.
I could go sit next to her and plead, please don't send me with him, you know. But my mother gave him way too much access to me. I think just because she was tired, she worked all the time, and then she had this, busy, active kid who wanted to be in everything. And parents are sometimes just tired, especially working parents. Well, sometimes parents who stay at home with their children are just as tired. But parents, a lot of time, at the end of the day, parents are very tired. And all
Oh,
parents
yeah.
need break sometimes from their kids. You just need a little break so you can be an adult,
Mhm.
so you can rest, relax, and renew. But we have
Mhm.
to be so very careful who we leave our children with, who we give access,
Amen.
because
Amen.
predators are everywhere and they are very
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, no, so
Very.
I
scary.
get that. I was a single mom, and my biggest fear, as I always, always, always had to figure out childcare because I had to work. I was the only income producing parent in the household, and I had to go to work every day, and I didn't want to lose my job. So I didn't want to call off. And so if my babysitter had to call off for some reason, there was a couple of times that I left my daughter with a caregiver that I really didn't know all that well.
Yeah.
And that was very scary for me. And so, I get it. And so sometimes our economic situation sometimes forces us in
Mhm.
our own minds, that, well, I have to do this. I don't have any choice. And
Right.
because that's what I used to think. I used to think I didn't have any choice. I have to go to work. I have to leave her somewhere so I can go to work. And
Yeah.
so that is very scary. I get that.
Especially for single parents, because many times single parents don't have that whole process of, if the sitter is not available, a lot of times a single parent doesn't have a backup. There is no other parent. And all
Right.
of the other folks in the village have to go to work too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All the
Right.
aunties, uncles, we're all like around the same age. So we all worked. And fortunately, I could take my kids to work with me. But there was that one time when I had to leave them with a sitter that I didn't know very well. And I was so nervous, and oh my God, I left work early. I just couldn't. I sometimes I feel like when it's not sitting right with you, you need to go check on your
Right.
kid.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think she was just not a good sitter. I don't think she was going to hurt them, but she was definitely not a good sitter. She's blowing cigarette smoke at my kids while
Oh
she's
my.
reading the story and
Wow.
joking while I was like, oh my God. But I think she meant well, that's just, she didn't think anything about secondhand smoke. I guess, you know,
So you wrote the book back in 2006, and so you were still working at that time.
I
So
was.
how did you find time to write the book? Did you have a system that you said, I need to get this so that I can help other families or other folks that have maybe gone through the same thing I've gone through? So I need to find a way to to get this in writing? So I know you were recording. Did you have a favorite time of day? Did you like write every morning before you went to work, or what worked for you?
I didn't have a system. I wrote solely by inspiration, and it was mostly late in the evening once I had put the girls to bed, because there was a lot of crying and, oh my God, the nightmares came back. It was a really, really tough time. And then when I finished the book, I held the book for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I didn't even look at it.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't. I was like, I kept telling myself, well, sometimes God tells you to write something so that it's cathartic and you don't have to. Nobody has to know. How could you tell that? What about the girls? So I just held it until they were older. Give me an idea. And during the pandemic, I went back to it. I fine-tuned it. I edited my own book 9 times before I went to the editor. And the editor said she was so proud of me. My punctuation was off, and I'm a former language arts teacher, so I swore her to secrecy so she couldn't tell my kids. And then I've been running to keep up with it ever since.
So is it in print now, available for purchase?
It is available on Amazon, and the first 50 copies of my book sold to all of my friends in Amityville, Long Island, who grew up in that town, knew that wicked man, but had no idea what was going on in our home.
Wow. It's another Amityville horror story.
That's what we used to. I said, the real Amityville horror lived at our house.
Oh my goodness.
It was a tough, tough story. And so I love that the girl said to me, you have to tell, because somewhere there's a kid who's getting beat up like you were, and maybe even somebody creeping in their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest
said, millions of kids are going through that every day.
I said, you're right, baby. We have to tell the story. So is it okay if I put your names in the book? And they both said yes. And so I said, well, okay, I will. And here we are with By His Grace. And you two, wonderful. Thank you for such a great opportunity to talk about health and wellness and how important it is for us to be wholly balanced.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So they say, the reports during the pandemic, they say that the belief is that there was probably more going on because people were stuck at home. Yes. And they couldn't go out and go to work, and the kids were not going to school, and that maybe all of that even increased during that time, which just broke my heart to think that was happening.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. School was always my safe place. I to do well in school. I felt like if you're smart, you're going to be able to go to college, and then you'll get away. It was my way out.
Okay, I get it. And you did. And of course, you got the BA in psychology of all things. and then of course a degree in education.
Yeah, I was going to be a famous psychologist and live in Paris. But maybe not famous, but I think that's an interesting idea, to live in Paris for a while. The girls and I.
So are you going to be doing any book tours, like sharing your story, reading a chapter in a bookstore, or are you just going to let it spread by word of mouth?
So far, I'm just spreading by word of mouth, but one of my classmates would like for me to do some touring with her sorority, and another, my best friend who's in the book, she decided to buy the book on Amazon. I tried to gift her a book, but she wouldn't hear of it. She's like, no, I'm supporting you. And she said that she read my book and she cried for 2 days.
Oh,
she said, oh, Jackie, she said, I was so upset with myself she said that I just couldn't grasp how I didn't know. And so I said to her, because we were kids.
Yeah.
We were kids in the late 1960s. Nobody talked about sex, and
Right.
nobody talked about pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Right.
people didn't even say cancer. I remember the adults in our
Yeah.
life. Yeah, see.
The C word. Yeah.
Mhm.
With a whisper.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And for your friend too, I mean, just knowing somebody that she loved so much that had to go through that horror,
Yeah.
is so painful.
She said to me, if you told, my father probably would have killed him. I said, let me tell you something. I sat down and I thought about that. I
Mm.
thought dad would help me. I knew your mother and father would help me. I love your parents.
Mhm.
And I was always welcome in your home like a family member, not like a friend. And I knew that your father would help me. And I said, I couldn't even fathom taking him away from you. I thought he would go to jail and then you guys wouldn't have him. And so again, I just didn't tell. Because
I get it. And that's such a common thread when you talk with folks that have gone through what you've gone through. That is such a common thread, and which is why the book is so important. And so are you taking, other than like being on podcasts such as this, are you doing speaking engagements or anything like that to?
I'm very open. Have not had
Okay.
it yet, but I'm very open. I am
Okay.
I'm an empowerment coach. And so I just really did not take care of my health. And so I moved down here to the country where life is slower. I had a hip replacement, I had a knee replacement, and I think we have to do something with my wrist. And I know how important it is to take care of yourself, but I put the kids first, and I'm feeling really good. I was dancing and kind of getting ready for all that lies ahead because I'm getting invitations, just haven't had any to speak yet.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell us about you being an empowerment coach, because this is quite a journey for you from where you started and then going through the psychology degree and then the education degree and then, ending up working with children and now an empowerment coach. So that's quite a journey for you. So what do you do as an empowerment coach?
So when I was an education advocate, being a coach was kind of like my side gig. It's certainly I've always had this gift of speaking, but I started taking engagements and I loved it. I loved speaking to groups of women and encouraging their hearts and just doing some wonderful activities, mostly around conflict resolution, because a lot of us have not been taught how to manage conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And we can even link some of that to childhood trauma. And so it just
because childhood trauma has a lot of low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't quite tell who's the enemy.
Boundary issues too. Yeah.
Your boundary issues, absolutely. And
Mhm.
you're always ready for someone to harm you. And so it just became a passion. It absolutely became a passion. And then I lived in Alexandria, Virginia. And so in the DMV, as we call it, I just was kind of crisscrossing and speaking everywhere. But as the girls got older, they were missing family. We'd come down here to the country for the family reunion every year, and they would be crying and their cousins would be crying. And I would go, my God, we're going to come back, your cousins for life, And so I decided to move down here until they graduate from high school. And because I am still a city girl, and then we'll kind of head back north.
Okay. So your empowerment coaching you say is for girls from like ages 10 to 20?
Yeah, war was also inspired. It's just inspiration from God. I noticed when I was teaching that girls are very unkind to other girls, just very unkind. And a lot of that is born solely out of insecurity and girls not being able to see their own beauty because they're living in chaos at home, because there's some level of poverty, or because mom and dad got a divorce, again, different traumas. And so I designed what was an 8-week pilot, and conflict resolution, peer mediation and negotiation, self-esteem, and finding your why. Because a lot of times kids have no clue what their purpose is, and no one has said to them, it's okay if you don't know yet. I used to tell them, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up yet, and I'm old. And it's okay if you change your mind. And so it was just like a phenomenal experience. I did some of this work in New York and in New Jersey, up in the South Bronx also, and did it in DC, not too much in Virginia. But I did it in DC. It's pretty, it's pretty progressive because the school system has to be open to allowing us to come into your classroom and co-teach with your teachers and have kind of like speak ups after school. And it has just been a phenomenal experience. It's my joy. I love it. My girls help sometimes. They'll, arrange their schedule so that they can be there. And during the pandemic, we did some of it on Zoom because we couldn't go out to schools. And it's been just so much fun. And we're going to poll some school districts outside of this area. And so I think one of the first things I'm going to do is talk to my 2 wonderful sisters in Christ. One is from Cleveland, the other's from Columbus, because Ohio is pretty progressive. And to me, you wouldn't know that unless you went to Ohio. It's like, wow, what a remarkable, interesting place. And so I think that's a school district we should pitch. And
well, you know what? I'm going to endorse that because I run a guest house out of my house, and so I have like a bed and breakfast. So that way you can come and stay with me, and visit all the schools.
I love you're so wonderful. We're coming in the summer though.
Yeah, but you want to go back to New York though, right? Dude, that cold.
Handle a New York winter, yeah. and I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your story is so powerful. And, as a Christian too, my pastor always said, your purpose is in your pain. And that's, you didn't go through that just for you and your sister to suffer. You went through it so you can help other people. And your book is going to help people, and everywhere you talk in the future is going to help so many people. So I'm just grateful for your courage and your strength and your perseverance to write the book and go through that pain. It's not easy. People can just say, no, absolutely no way am I going through that again, because you do. It's like re-traumatizing yourself all over again, just trying, when you remember and write it down. So I applaud you for that. And God's going to take you where he's meant for you to be.
Amen. Amen. Mm-hmm. I'm willing.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. I love it. Now, do you have a website for your empowerment coaching? I
don't have a website. It's just my side gig, and I'm telling you, it just took off. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to. So Desirae just came in. She's my media specialist. I'm like, Desirae, we have to make a website. People. She goes, Mom, they are. And I go, yeah. Okay, that's great. Let's do it. Yeah. So we're going to maybe take care of that this weekend.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. Well, keep me posted so that I can post that along with our podcast. When you have it, I can go in and edit, the description under the podcast and add the website. Right now, I do have your email. Is it okay if we share your email with our listeners? Absolutely. For them in case they want you to come?
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to see if I can read my writing. It's WILLJAC 58. Is that correct? At gmail.com?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Make sure I have that correct there. Perfect. So the book is called By His Grace by Jacqueline Williams. It's available on Amazon, and you can reach Jacqueline at WILLJAC58@gmail.com. And so connect with her if you're looking for a speaker. Now, how far will you travel? I know you said coming to Ohio, but what, in a perfect world, what would be a great opportunity for you?
The next one.
The next opportunity is the best one. I love it.
I have no boundaries at this point. I'm just trusting God.
Okay, I get it.
We're going to continue to go where we're asked to come. If we receive an invitation, I believe that God will make a way, and we'll continue to go where He sent me.
Amen.
Well, if you're in Columbus, Ohio area, you have a place to stay. Not to worry about that, because I have the bed and breakfast. So I can cover that for you.
Okay, take you up on that.
And I'm in North Carolina too. So you got a sister in the South.
All right. I am about 23 miles from the North Carolina line.
Oh,
That's
okay.
down in Virginia. I'm at the tip end of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. I want to ask you something, Jacqueline, because we do know that there are so many millions of children who are suffering in a similar way that you did. And if any of them were to hear this podcast and say, my gosh, how did she do it? What advice would you give them? Who's somebody who's in that situation right now and desperate and not knowing what to do? I mean, I'm sure it would be different for different ages, but what would you say to those kids?
I think the first thing is no way, no how is any of it your fault. I don't care if you didn't tell. I don't care that you didn't run. I don't care that you accepted the candy, the money. I don't care. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
And you have to find someone, please, that you trust and tell them what's happening to you. A teacher, maybe, certainly anyone in your church that you can trust. Sometimes a friend can help depending on the age, but the most important thing for kids to know is no way is this your fault.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible thing that's happening to you. It is not who you are. Right. And there is a way out. It's a step-by-step, day-by-day process. I tell high school students, I graduated from high school 1,000,000 years ago, but for 4 years, I crossed every day off the calendar for 4 years because I knew.
You were just waiting when you could get out.
I'm getting out. I'm going to college. I'm not living here. And it stopped now when I was about 13 years old, but I didn't know it was over. I didn't know. So I was still terrified. When he would move around our house at night, I was absolutely terrified. Oh my God. I mean, to the point where I would shake, terrified.
That just breaks my heart that there are children still going through that. Oh, and that you had to go through that. I had such a normal upbringing. And so sometimes when I meet folks like you, I have a certain level of guilt because my childhood was very normal. And I'm like, oh, how could I have helped? There had to have been some folks right in my vicinity, right in my school that I didn't know. And
but
like your girlfriend, when she felt bad that, had she known.
Yeah, but you were a kid, and how can you tell the signs? How can children know what to look for? Right. Because the signs are so different. Sometimes it's anger. Sometimes a child is not well kept. Sometimes there's different body movements. There's so many ways that you can tell, and just as many that you can hide what's happening because there's so much shame.
Yeah.
And kids should just never be ashamed of this. It's just not on them.
But they're told it is. So, and when you're a kid, you don't know how to separate that truth or untruth.
And that's another reason why we do war, Who's at Risk, because it's a no judgment zone. You can tell what you want to tell, and what you don't want to tell, you don't have to. but we're still here for you. And we still have some fun activities and some coping skills that will serve you all the way into adulthood.
Yeah.
You leave a war session empowered, because our kids go into a war zone. School is a war zone now. There's so much bullying and unkindness that I think kids need a soft place to land. Kids need a place where they can be heard. And that's what war is about too. Kids come to war who don't have childhood trauma, but because they're just nice kids and they want to help the kids who are going through difficulty. And I love them. Because we all need someone who's nice to us when we're having a rough time in our lives. And so Desirae and Daryl and I say, have war, we'll travel, we'll come. If you want us to come, we'll come. We'll figure it out. She's sitting across the table from me, nodding her head, yes.
Well, Desirae, hello.
Yes. You can get on the screen if you want. We'd love to say hi.
Hi.
Beautiful face. Hello. Yes, welcome.
Welcome. Yes. So what a wonderful family you have. And I'm just so happy that we had the opportunity to talk with you and hear your story and know that you have this book that's going to help so many folks and that your message is so important. And we are definitely looking forward to having you maybe in our town or in our city so that we can meet. But thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you both so very much. This has just been my honor and my privilege. I salute you, the work that you're doing. God bless you. Godspeed. We pray that everything you touch just works out for his good, for your good and for his glory. Because I love the work that you're doing. I'm so excited about this connection that God has made for me with you two beautiful ladies. I'm thankful. I have a grateful heart this evening.
You do. You're so sweet. Your heart is huge. I love you.
Well, we do have a gift that we're going to give you at the end of this podcast, is that we are going to list you in our speakers bureau as a speaker. So when other folks are looking for speakers and they visit the speakers bureau, you will have a presence there. And that's our free gift to you for being on our podcast tonight. And I already have a gal that I know is probably going to be excited to call you to be on her podcast. And I work with her rather closely, and she visits our speakers bureau often to get her next speaker. And so I will let her know that your name is there with the little star that she needs to get a hold of you. So
much. You're just wow. You guys, I'm getting a little teared up here.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Well, I want to thank all of our listeners for coming on tonight and listening. And for those that are going to listen to the replay later, we're not only are we on Vimeo, but we're also on YouTube. And the audio portion of this is truly on a podcast on Audio Boom, which is picked up by 8 other channels. And so, Jackie, you're going to be on about, I'm guessing, about 10 channels once we upload this for tonight. 10 different lanes out there in the world that folks will know. And I will put your book title, and it's available on Amazon, and how they can contact you. And then if you do get your website going, just let me know, because I can always go in and amend the description under our podcast to include your website when you're ready. So and also in the speakers bureau, I can add that as well. So keep in touch. We're glad that you're on board. Again, go to kathybinner.com. You can get all of our replays. You can click through to the free version of the Fit as a Fiddle Plus, and all of the replays of all of the folks we've talked to will be there. And connect with Rita at ritabrewer.com, and definitely get into her webinar on March 20th at 7 p.m. And
I can't wait.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And learn what you can in this free webinar. And then she'll have some offers, I'm sure, at the end of the webinar where you can dive even deeper if you want to. So definitely stay connected with us. I have several masterminds also that you can actually buy into. Mine, because of being a single mom, my audience is all those gals that, I always say that the folks that need it the most can afford it the least. And so I have a membership site at only $25 a month, and you can be in 2 or 3 different masterminds, and you can learn how to build a better business, how to write from anywhere in the world, how to invest and get some passive income coming in, and then also join us here on Fit as a Fiddle Plus. So all of that is included at kathybinner.com. So scroll around there as well. So anyway, I want to say thank you so much. Rita, is there anything you would like to say as we finish up?
I'm excited. I have to say, like, at this time of the evening for me, I'm always like, I'm tired, but I'm so glad that I got on every time. I'm so glad I get them on. I meet such amazing people and hear amazing stories. Jackie, God bless you. He makes a way out of no way, right? And it's always miraculous to see how he's going to go. He's making a seat at the table for you to share your gifts with whoever needs it. Like you said, it's going to come your way. And I'm glad you got to share it with us here tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you both again. It's just been a privilege. It's been an honor. You are 2 phenomenal sisters, and I'm so proud to know you. I can't wait to see what's next in our journeys together.
Yay.
I feel the same way, Jackie.
Yay.
I feel the same way. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.